Hi, this is Yusuf Azizullah for GBAC, and today I'd like to welcome a good friend, Maryann Bruce. She sits on the board of Amalgamated Bank. It's a financial institution with a very unique perspective, coming to being public back in 2018. She serves on the audit committee and the enterprise risk management committee. She served on public, private boards, and mutual fund boards, and nonprofit boards. So, hey, Maryann, welcome, and thank you for taking the time to give us some insights from you.
Thank you, Yusuf, for having me on your program. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. COVID has really disrupted the planet, and I'm hearing things from not only in the US, but throughout from Germany, France, and board colleagues from UK that it's really putting a lot of new pressures that the people weren't really prepared for. What are you seeing in your boardroom, and what has happened since the last couple of months? So if you can share some insights.
One of the major things that I believe all the companies are experiencing is this rapid acceleration towards digital transformation. Many organizations, ourselves included, we didn't expect to have everybody working from home. Fortunately, we were able to get that done pretty quickly. Within the space of 2 weeks, we had almost 95% of our employees working from home.
Wow.
Because I serve on a bank board, obviously it's an essential business. And so we did have to have some employees in the branches. And so our primary focus was on making sure that our employees were safe and healthy. And then our second focus was making sure that the customers, we could meet their needs, even though we were going to be working from home. So this shift to digital has been a blessing for some companies and probably an unwelcome wake-up call for others. And for those companies that weren't far along on their digital journey, they need to get started sooner versus later, whether it's digital tools, capabilities, investing in data analytics, because it substantially can improve the customer experience. And at Amalgamated, we have online banking like most, we have mobile banking, et cetera, but we had a large portion of our consumers who like to come to the branch, and obviously they can't do that now. And so we're having to service them in a different capacity. And so one of the things that I've been encouraging people to ask is, if you're moving to this digital transformation, do you have the talent in-house to even help implement the transformation? And if not, as a board member, I want to find out from the CEO, what are we going to do about that? Where are we going to find the talent? Are we going to outsource? Because with this pandemic, I believe it's made all of us realize that we could do things a lot faster than we ever expected. And despite banks having a lot of antiquated systems, I do think that this move to digital, and we've got to get with the program.
Absolutely. What I'm noticing, not only in the US, but across the planet, FTSE and DAX boards, most of the large corporation boards have been meeting since the pandemic began on a weekly to bi-weekly basis. Tell me, what are you seeing?
Thank you, Yusuf. So obviously we are meeting significantly more frequently. I believe transparency and communication is key, both with the CEO and the board, and then the board members with each other, as well as employees as needed. So our CEO has done several things. Every day we get an email that he sends out to all of the employees, but he also includes the board on it to let us know what's happening with our branches, because some of our branches are closed. And keep in mind, we had one strategy with the pandemic, and then because we have branches in New York and DC and California, then you've had this social and civil unrest lately. So that's created some challenges for the branches as well. But we've been rotating employees through the branches. Some have been closed, some have been opened. We've shortened hours. So we get an update every day from the CEO as to what's happening. In that communication, we also he'll put in things like what we call a moment of Zen to try and help people calm down. It's been everything from recipes to funny videos, to employees' children's who have created a TikTok video. They kind of just share it with each other as a way to keep the human element involved. We also have had more board meetings. They've all been done virtually. And I serve on the audit committee as well as the enterprise risk oversight committee. And clearly those committees are meeting more frequently. One of the challenges with virtual meetings, as I'm sure you can understand is it's very hard to sit in a chair, the same chair,
Yeah.
all day long without breaks.
Yeah.
And so we've tried to break up our board meeting. So our first full board meeting that we had, which was scheduled for the end of April, we did virtually. And we did the consent agenda first, and then separately we had the meeting. And then the committee meetings were done on different days at different times, depending upon the committee members. So we tried to break it up so that everybody can be fresh and really understand the issues. And then the other thing that we've done is we've done deep dives on certain topics. So for instance, one of the topics could be capital allocation. And so we met on that, and as a board, we immediately agreed to suspend our share repurchase program. Right. And then obviously we talk about the dividend and we evaluate the dividend. We had another deep dive on diversity and inclusion, given everything that's been happening in the country. So we've just been meeting more frequently to stay on top of things and stay relevant.
Thank you for sharing. This is some great insights. Some of the things that I've noticed is actually cash is very tight. I'm seeing across the planet, board, dividend cutting, cash is tight, credit is tight right now. So this is very good to hear that your bank is really good. Let's talk about the future. We don't know when this is going to end. Nobody knows. It's just good educated guesses we have when the vaccine gets created and when we do ever get back to new normal or whatever normal looks like. What are you envisioning for the future for your bank and for the kind of, how the future will look like? What can you give us some advice to other board members and chairs? What should they be thinking with the digital, and give us some thoughts and for innovation and maybe merger and acquisition?
First of all, I think the most important thing when it comes to the future is that board members and executive teams need to reimagine the future. Right. Everyone needs to develop a mindset that allows you to embrace change, allows you to innovate, allows you to question the accepted wisdom, and pivot from what I like to say is, this is what we've always done, to this is what we can become. So obviously we need to create new products and services that meet our customers' needs and help them achieve their goals in the best way possible. Right. So as I mentioned earlier, from the consumer perspective, the future will most likely be around making sure that you have a brand strategy that complements your digital strategy. They need to work in concert if it's going to be effective. I envision that in the new world order, when people start visiting branches, it'll probably be for more complex situations. Mortgages, discussions about loans. If you're a commercial client, maybe it's securitization, things of that nature. Right. Whereas the more simple transactions, getting cash, you could get through the ATM, oh, I want to freeze my credit card, I want to order a new credit card, I want to get new checks, whatever, that could be handled online. So we need to make sure that it's a seamless experience for the customer. But then the other thing, what I've been thinking about, and I've been talking to some of my board colleagues when it comes to reimagining the future, is some key questions. And I'm not pretending to have the answer, but I'm just saying these are the types of questions we should be thinking about. Right. How will life permanently change your customers? Trying to anticipate how you need to change your products, your services, to create new ones to support them is going to be key to long-term success. Right. You also need to be thinking about your competition. Right. Where will there be opportunities? Can you form new alliances? You mentioned it earlier. Is this the time to acquire? If so, who? And what are you looking for to supplement what you already have? Right. Who might be your new competition? Because just like we're thinking about these things, other firms are thinking about maybe entering our space. And who's going to pivot into that space? And how can you kind of give them the Heisman so they don't take over your market share? Of course. I also would be thinking about what are our distinguishing strengths. Most successful companies, as you know, have a unique and valuable differentiation strategy. So what are the 1, 2, or 3 things that set us apart from our competition, and how can we make sure that our best customers are aware of that? Because as I like to say, my best customers is the competitor's best prospect. Right. And we want to make sure that we're delivering everything we can to meet the needs of our customer. Great. We talked a little bit about this earlier. Talent. Where and how are you going to be able to find talent? Right. Everyone's focused on the fact that there's 44 million Americans right now that are without a job, and that's certainly horrible. But the flip side of that means there's a lot of people out there looking for a job.
Right.
So
Exactly.
what talent do we need to supplement what we already have? And how are we going to go about finding them? And maybe we should find them sooner versus later before the competition scoops them up.
Right.
Then you always like to think about what could you stop doing? What are things that we're doing now that maybe don't make sense in the new world order? And how could we redeploy those resources so that they're used more effectively? And then lastly, I always say you need to figure out how you're going to define success. If we're changing our strategy or revising our strategy, or we're doing more with digital transformation, what is it that's going to help us realize that we've achieved success? Because if you don't define the metrics or the other things that are important to you on the front end, you're never going to be able to figure out on the back end. You might get wedded to an idea instead of realizing that it's really not working. And if you had thought about it on the front end and put in milestones and checkpoints, you wouldn't be so wedded to the idea.
Absolutely.
So these are the types of questions that I'm encouraging people to think about, and then that can help you form your revised strategy.
Absolutely. Those are some really good thoughts. And thank you for sharing your wisdom and expertise with us, with my platform, and the people that subscribe to me. I really appreciate, Maryann, your time and great boardroom expertise. We've known each other for many years, so I'm really glad a chance that we finally got a chance to engage each other, and you had to make some time for us. This is some great advice. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.